Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening. Good evening. Nobody has come. Others also didn't come. Okay, I will not wait for anyone. We'll start. Okay, today we have. We'll do the which one?
Sir, eighth block development of Canadian criticism.
I think you have anatomy of criticism, right? By Northrop Pyre. Do you have the materials? Actually, e-Gyan course is not opening today. Can you send me the materials?
Sir, I have that physical book. If you want, then I can send you through WhatsApp. Is that okay?
Yeah. Just send me the content. What is there? I
Oh, okay,
just
sir. Okay. Sir, I just sent the content through WhatsApp to your WhatsApp number. Kindly please check.
yeah. Okay. Okay. It talks about. Can you send me the first content?
Yes, sir. I'm just making the PDF and I'm just sending it, sir.
I'm
Just
just a unit per unit content. I just want.
Sir, I sent you the first unit.
No, I haven't got.
Just a second, sir. It is going.
Oh, you made all the pages. No, no, I just don't need it. Just wanted the first page. Just the first page of all the units you send me, okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I don't want all the pages. Okay, okay. It's talking about the post modernism in Canada. Okay, okay. So, talking about this unit, we'll talk about the post modernism in Canada. And postmodernism was basically handled or tackled by Linda Hutchion and Robert Kreutzig. So Hutchin was able to, claim for double-edged weapon like irony and paradogy, especially a special efficacy with her culture, and you find the other person position is not, very different from hers. So you find Northrop Fire in his book 1994, The Legacy of Northrop Fire, which was edited by Lee and Dehman. Uh, Hutchin, Hutchinon sees a tension of fire between what she sees in his dominantly modernism and humanistic approach to literature and the culture, of course, and his more postmodern willingness to study Canadian literature primarily as a part of the Canadian life. So the move made by Hutchinon is, the essay "Fiery Recorded Modernity," and the conclusions. So in this you find Robert um, Kreutzig is one of the Canada's leading post modernist writers, but his critical tools are mostly closer to post structuralist practices. So, yeah, the book which is a good example is Labyrinths of Voice, which was published in 1982. And the same is in case with a number of other Canadian critics, including Smaro Camboroli, and you find Camboroli is okay. We will talk about it. Who leading to the Canadian feminism? Okay, so it was Frank Dave who began an effective counterattack against the line of fire Atwood and the other Canadian writers. So in 1974, a lecture at York University entitled Surviving the Paraphrase, he acknowledged the legitimacy of cultural poetics as a critical practice, but exalted the literariness over other criteria. So he lashed out at the emphasis on the theme that till the mid 1970s and has dominated the Canadian writing and criticism. And you find he argues that the cultural nationalist critical practice stemmed from a desire to uh, ev- circumvent the evaluation, thereby forestalling the treatment of Canadian literature as a series genre. So he considered this critical practice to be reductionist in nature, as it did no more than paraphrase the national literature in terms of international issues. So he perceived the metalingual representation. Are you getting me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
No, I said, are you getting me?
Sir, actually,
Yes,
it was
sir.
difficult to get the points that you are elaborating me. Sir, I am not able to understand this.
Okay. So it is basically we are talking about the how post modernism affected the Canadian literature. Have you read this?
Uh, Sir, just now I am going through it. I didn't read it.
Okay. If you, it is supposed to you should read and come so that you can understand, and you can always ask questions.
So sorry, sir. Today my health was not good. I am suffering from fever. That's why actually.
Okay. So you read afterwards, and then if you have any doubts, you ask me.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Yeah. So you find this basically the the nationalism, the beyond nationalism, which was written by Kreutzig. Further, talks about the causes of Canadian post modernism, saying that the very ability to see over ourselves is based on the narrative mode. So that so uh, he says that I telling the story of I, of we, of the the they that mirror us. So his words basically talks about a variety of narrative modes instead of the single grand narrative, and pointing out the direction that Canadian literature writings must take in order to express its polyvalent subjectivity. So his writings reject a central, Canadian identity, and the center being, an artificial fictional concept, serving to the, to suppress and control. So you find his work celebrates anarchy and deliberating, avoiding conclusiveness, and thereby negating the views of the text as a fully finished product. So, the open endedness makes writers and readers accomplish, in the marking, sorry, in showing the text, and he says that he wants the readers to be engaged with him in fiction making. So he's questioning the notion of center, whether in culture, identity, or literature, is conceptualized not only in his writing but also in the critical stance, making his voice an important one in the Canadian post modern discourse. So you find the perspectives of the post colonial theory which have been applied to the Canadian situation needs to be done with a number of ifs and buts. But one must, go a little into what kind of possibility already exists, and the domain in which the post-colonial perspective can be quite useful is narrative Canadian writing. So you find, um, when we enforce by Bakitian concept like the heteroglossia and uh, carnival skew, which can help, which can help coming to the terms with not only one, only narrative Canadian text, but also the text by the writers. So you find one fruitful possibility is the of the positioning against the official discourse of the education, industrialization, and the facts, that the language rooted in play liberates the imaginations. So even we have the diaspora, we can say, what is a diaspora? Let me ask you first. Yeah, what is a diaspora? Anyone?
The people living there, sir, the one who stays,
Mm-hmm.
the
Works out.
natives and diasporic. So, I mean, like, the one who stays away, but I mean, or people from outside. Is it something like that?
Yeah, work. These are a piece of literary works that have been
Yes,
written by authors who live outside the native land.
yes, sir.
That is diaspora. Okay. So, We have, here critics. There are critics like Uma Parmeshwaran, and there are other mm, writers also like Smaro, who theorizes diaspora in her own way in her 2000 books and 2000 books scandalous bodies. And you find before that, we let us also know that Victor Ramraj has also said about the diaspora community, and his views about the diaspora writing is invariably concerned with the individuals or the community's attachment to the centrifugal homeland, because this attachment is uh, you know uh, counted. Just a minute. Yeah. So this has countered by a yearning of for a sense of belongingness to the current place or of abroad, and this caught psychically between the two worlds, the diaspora, which are traditional beings, or you can say that they are in the process of moving from one cultural state of existence to another. So in this state of the transition, some respond, ambivalently to their dual, often antithetical cultures of the society, and some attempt to assimilate and, integrate. For others, the liminal or the transitional state, which are too prolonged and too excruciating to cope with, and they make withdraw to their ancestral identity or homeland, which is both a cage and a heaven. So you find the nature of diaspora is, if you look at its cultural location and the politics, it depends upon the nature of the host and not just what the diaspora is. So diaspora, despite their common origin, may have, in a totally different manner depending on their country of relocation. And a host country like USA, for example, cannot distinguish between the immigrants and the diasporic people. So you find in South Asian diaspora also, it falls into two distinct phases. And so in accordance to their own need and compulsions, you find we see that the break was not very voluntary but enforced by the distances between the motherland and the diasporic settlements, and the older, much slower moods of travel, and the lack of economy means to make frequent journeys. And in fact, you find the laborers who were shipped out rarely had enough money to make the journey back to India. For most, it was only one way ticket to another land. So in the distance, both it was both physical, but uh, more so psychological, was so vast, that the motherland remained frozen in the diasporic imagination as a sort of sacred site or symbol, almost like an idol of memory and imagination. So The poverty of the homeland, which causes the diaspora in the first place, was forgotten or overwritten with the feeling that it was home, which was a place where the present alienation of the diasporic person did not exist. So, because a physical return was virtually impossible, an emotional or spiritual renewal was an ongoing necessity. So, this was done through a process of replication. But we cannot say that can be could be a a reproduction. So, and then we have um, you know there were also there were also oppositional criticisms, and in the oppositional criticism you see in the introduction of oppositional critic or oppositional aesthetics, reading from hyperanated space. Here, Arun Mukherjee has said, opens up with a reading of the South Asian Canadian text as an oppositional discourse to the dominant ideologies of literary and cultural analysis in the you find Euro America, and the essays in this collection are written from the viewpoint of a person who lived, through the colonial and the post-colonial experience of being Indian and an immigrant, in Canada, who, as she remarks, went through the painful and the difficult, process of decolonization. So both the identity called the Canadian literature and the essentialized Canadian identity, uh, it was, premised on has been seriously eroded, and the hypernated Canadians, as those of us who are not from the two founding nations, have been called or have been challenged by the others by the unitary notions of the nation identity, and are asserted that um, being different by no means equates with being the being Canadian. So you find Mukherjee too, in her oppositional aesthetic, talks about or describes the tendency to use the Euro centric text to perpetuate the myths and the of the colonial theory. And also you find there was also Itwaru, who takes objection to the use of the word post-colonial. You understand what is post-colonial?
Yes, sir. After
Yes,
the literature that has come after the Britishers have left and after the freedom has been gained, colonization, the ones we attain the freedom from the colonialism.
Yeah, and it's very important, when you write post-colonial should be it is a hyphenated word, as originally this was used by the historians after the Second World War in the term such as post-colonial state. And post-colonial has uh, a clearly a chronicle meaning, designating the post independence period. Am I clear?
yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So so you have yeah, I was telling about the so there you have, the empire's right back to the center, and both these terms he points out presume like post-colonial and the empire's right back to the center. So both these, he points out presume the continuing existence of the former empire, whose subject writers are in extension of the dependency which are instituted through the colonialism. And these are talking back to the imperial centers, as in doing so, and are defining themselves. And herein, the insidious play of the dialogic of imperialism continues, and you find Itwaru rightly, claims that it is the circular trope of the negating self, referencing, Mayat in a delusion of identification, where the order of imperial domination is in the trajectory in which a styled, aesthetics of resistance is conceived. In this, the imperium, prevails. So later you find that, um, there are other, thematic criticisms and thematic criticisms of the kind which are exemplified by Atwood's in survival also prevails, in the certain quarters. And survival itself, as I had told you, that it was published in 1972, and suggests, how prevalent images and themes in the Canadian literature reveal a collective victim mentality that results from the Canadian troubled, relation. So, yes, Ikra, what happened? Ikra, can you hear me? Hello? Just hold on for a minute. Okay, so you find there's a persuasive feeling of. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So, uh, you find, yes, as I said, so the Canadian troubled relation with the wilderness also was, presented during that period of time. Okay. Am I clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sridevi?
Yes, sir. Clear in a sense, sir. It's very much understandable, but
Unless
as
this
as
criticism, unless you. Yeah.
I mean, as such criticism we have seen in MEG-5 also, sir. So it's like
Yeah.
quite technical. Criticism is about like kind of technical aspect in general, like overall this thing. It's very clear, sir, as such what you're uh, sharing
No,
with us is clear.
unless you don't, you personally, if you don't read the text, it won't give you a clear image.
Yes, sir. That's true. Yes, sir.
Okay. Chavi,
Yes, sir.
uh, did you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have Supriya. Supriya, I think because you've not read, this is becoming a little bit difficult for you.
Sir, it's okay, but I am going through it, and now I am able to understand a little bit. It's okay. I will go through it. Don't worry, sir.
Okay. Just a minute. Just hold on for a minute. I think we have the next one, the anatomy of criticism. Can you just check the text?
Yes, sir. It is not through anatomy of criticism.
Yeah. Okay. I think if you find very difficult the first unit, you can, you know, leave the first unit and you can read the next units, because I think at least one question you will get, or question you will get.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a minute, just a minute. Trying to. I'm just taking out that text. Can you just send me the first page of that thing?
Yes, sir. I already sent you, sir, the second PDF, but page number 14.
Okay, okay, just a minute. Today the e-Gyan Kosh is not opening. very difficult. 1 minute.
So the second PDF what I sent that you said na first page of every unit I sent you.
Okay, okay. Okay, I'm sending you the. Just a minute. I'm sending. Anatomy of Criticism, written by Northrop Frye. You find is a canonical statement. You find, you know, and you find this is relating to the um, on the principles and foundation of literary criticism. I'm sure you must have read MEG-5.
Yes sir.
In MEG-5. So, what are the what is the principle of you know um, literary criticism? Yes, Chavi.
Yes, sir.
What is the principle, the foundation of the literary criticism?
Sir, actually, I don't read the text.
No, no, I'm asking this from the literary criticism part.
Sir, it is actually an art, or like, a kind of this thing having it's an approach towards literature to ability to examine the text that in view in detail, and that is the fundamental concept, right, sir? I mean,
Yes,
examining
yes,
the text and also paying attention to the language, structure, themes, symbols, whatever is that
correct.
the author's style.
Yeah,
We should be able to analyze and with kind of a like reader and author point of view.
One fine
yeah, yeah.
morning, I was preparing his lunch, and he said that he just took his bath.
Okay. So it is widely, noted for its scope and ambition, and synthesizing theory from Aristotle to present, critiquing the, state of profession of criticism in the 20th century, and providing a tool kit for reading almost in the entirety of Western literature. So the vastly influential book has been called, unstatedly monumental. And this was published in 1957. And the book, came into the heyday of what has been called to be, what has been come to be called as the new criticism. Now, this school of literary theory held that works of literature should be studied in isolation in order to see, how they developed their own, meaning um, through language alone. So that means, literary critics should close read text to find, patterns of meaning, and but they should ignore other sources of information in their interpretation, such as the biography of an author or the history of the society in which an author wrote. So you see, Fiery's book, too ignores the biography and history in its study of literature, but it moves beyond individual texts in order to find patterns across literature. And in turn, you find it discovers the categories of literary experience that uh, themselves have a history, moving from the more primitive to the more complex one. So part of the appeal of the new criticism was it's relatively uncontroversial and easy to explicit method close readings of the individual texts. And in 1950s saw in the United States not only the politically fraught situation of the Cold War, but also a massive increase of the students going to college under the GI Bill after World War II. So it was useful to have a method that provides a common point of reference for all these students. So the anatomy of criticism was instrumental for this purpose, and its range of text and its definition for the literary vocabulary provided both an introduction to literature and a textbook for how to study it. So it would it would prove indispensable for a new generation of scholars of literature who needed the tools to close read and connect their readings to those of others. Okay, am I clear? Hello, are you getting me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, being so of its moment, however, you find the anatomy of criticism was equally criticized by a succeeding generation. So, other currents in literary criticism, such as the reconstruction and the post structuralism, would later, destabilize the sense provided by Fire, and there is a coherent system of literature. So Fire is structuralism, the idea, that there is a structure of plot, themes, symbols, and genres that organize, the literary field would seem, increasingly untenable in a world where naming and truth were shown. So you find, um, but in the anatomy, Fire was already interested in how work of literature blur the various categories to which they seem to belong, and his legacy may ultimately rest in the extent to which he both provided a stable set of terms for literary criticism and anticipated how literary criticism would continue to evolve and grow in the new direction. So you have basically four chapters in this. So you want me to tell about tell um, about the four essays?
Yes, sir, if possible.
No, no, I can say, but then you know, uh, we,
Sir, may I request, like, can you, instead of just going through these four of them, from examination point of view, what should be able to retain, and what to look in each of this critic? Also, like, maybe the main things of, like, if suppose if it's not Northrop Frye or this Linda's, and the what the significant the things of them, something that is strikingly which we can remember and easy to understand, so it's
so
like
you have the various themes which has been presented through this anatomy of criticism that I can discuss. Then I can, if you want, I can tell you the summary or the symbols, all those things that you want. So,
yes
oh,
sir,
so
yes sir,
what do you want?
yes.
What do you want to tell me?
um, so suppose we are discussing about Northrop Frye or the next, like, the I think in this the some Smarok Kamrauli, the repeatedly this is his the question on him has been touched, sir. So
Hmm.
I mean, so, like, we have heard a bit about Northrop Frye, but never heard about Smaruk Kamrali, and also like Linda's, not really very familiar this thing. So any key points that their style of criticism, or what to look
Hmm.
for? If you can touch all those three, that will be great. If you are otherwise, like, any
Okay.
one or two, yes.
Just okay. So basically, what I was seeing is you get at least one question from this anatomy of criticism, and if you know this, okay, I'll tell you in short about all the four essays of Northrop Frye's masterful, which was uh, written in 1957, The Anatomy of Criticism, that presents, principles of literary criticism by drawing upon a wide survey of Western literature, from Homer to Joyce. So, an essay, when we say, is literary an attempt, at describing something. And in this book, uh, you know, uh, the author tries to offer four theories that attempts to define the categories of literature and the keywords for doing, literary criticism. So the book begins with a, polemical introduction. Polemical. What is the polemic? A polemic is in this sense is like a manifesto, and Fry is intending to lay out a strong claim for how literary criticism should be done, and attacking others for how they have done it instead. So, in particular, the author argues for thinking of criticism as a science, and such a science is interested in studying the underlying patterns and categories of literature, just like um, the people, the physicists who look for the law of gravity underlying our experience of the physical world. So that means the criticism, should be inductive and making categories from reading literature itself. And in the essay that follow, Fry offers four such categories. Each category facilitates a different kind of criticism. Okay. So Fry starts with modes in the first essay. A mode which refers to the power of action that characters have in a work of literature, and Fry argues that there are principally five modes. The first is the mythic, which is when characters are superior to their world and to the readers like gods. Are you all getting me?
Yes, sir.
So, in the romantic mode, the main character is a hero who is better than his environment but is still a man, not a god. Okay, second. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So, the third is in a high mimetic mode, the character is a similarly admirable human, but he is not more powerful than his environment. The fourth one is a low mimetic mode. So, in the low mimetic mode, the character is like an everyman, equal to everyone. And finally, you find in an ironic mode, the characters are lower than the average man. They're scoundrels. Okay. So you find in the second essay, Fry looks at symbols. He considers five different aspects in which symbols can be talked about, or five different types of symbols. And each refers to the relation that a symbol has to something else. And in a motif, the symbol is related only within the work of literature itself. So you find in a sign, the symbol refers to something outside the text, naming or describing the world. So in an image, the symbol not only refers to the outside world, but also invokes particular feelings. And in an archetype, an image recurs across the multiple works of literature. And finally, in a monad, you find a symbol refers to something universal, like human nature. So the five different types or phases of symbol thus move from small to big in term of frame of reference, from content to the text itself to referring to all of mankind. So then we come to the third essay. The third essay is about myths, which is grouping of symbols. So sometimes you find images recur together in master plots, like good versus the evil. And Fry discusses a number of these types of groupings, especially in terms of the types of imagery that they involve. The imagery of the divine world, the human world, and the animal world, the vegetable world, all of these. But he is particularly interested in a pattern that recurs across different groups of images, which is the division of imagery um, into four phases that are like the four seasons. Some summer, winter, spring, and autumn. So you see, imagery has a life cycle, just like the course of a year, from the birth of a spring to the death of winter. So Fry argues that these four phases corresponds to four mythic and primary categories of literature. Comedy, that is spring; romance represents summer; tragedy represents in autumn; and the satire in winter. Okay. And in his fourth essay, Fry turns his attention to genre, which he defines as the primary form in which a work of literature is presented. So there are, according to Fry, four main genres are there. Drama, which are works primarily presented by the actors on the stage. Epos are works which are spoken, you know, um, um, by a poet to an audience, including the classic Greek epics like the Odyssey, and but also any poem which intended to be recited out loud. Lyrics are works addressed from an individual poet to another individual, like an address to God or a lover. And finally, the fictions, which are works primarily printed on a page. This includes all the modern novels. So this is all about the four essays of you know um, Fry in Anatomy of Criticism. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if we come to the themes, we find The scientific study of literature um, in the anatomy of criticism, then the literature as compared to the other domains of knowledge, and literary criticism as and the Greek, then we have induction uh, as compared with deduction, and even the search for common principle and the search for new names, and being very through this text, uh, the comparison between thematic and personal being. Okay, so all these are themes which are reflected by Fry. Any questions?
Sir, in the previous year question, it is indicating about the Fry's anatomy of the criticism.
Mm.
It is having that explain anatomy of criticism. If it will come the question, then we have to elaborate about the fourth essay of Friars and writing about the symbols that you said in the third romance, tragedy, and irony that you said according to the season, right? All the
Yes,
things we have to write. Okay,
yes, yes. If it is a generalized question it is asking, then you have to write everything.
okay, sir. Okay.
Any other questions?
So right now I don't have any question. Sorry.
Okay. Then we go to the next. Ikra, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No, sir. Sir, can I ask something?
Yeah, yeah.
सर एक्चुअली मैं ये पूछ रही थी सर, जैसे मैं अभी फर्स्ट सेकंड ईयर के असाइनमेंट सबमिट नहीं कर सकती हूँ बिकॉज
क्यों?
मुझे कुछ सर मुझे कुछ ज्यादा ही परेशानी सी है, तो मुझे हॉस्पिटल जाना पड़ रहा है बार बार।
Mm-hmm.
तो मैं इसलिए अभी सबमिट नहीं कर सकती हूँ 30 अप्रैल तक।
Mm-hmm.
तो सर मैं बाद में बीच में कर सकती हूँ क्या कभी?
नहीं, आप फिर क्या होगा ना, बाद में आपको करना पड़ेगा, मतलब फिर नेक्स्ट नेक्स्ट 6 मंथ्स में।
नेक्स्ट 6 मंथ में?
हम्म। आप
दिसंबर
अभी
से
सेकेंड
पहले
ईयर में
पहले?
हो ना?
जी
आप अभी सेकेंड ईयर में हो,
जी जी।
तो आप जून में एग्जाम दे रहे हो कि नहीं?
नहीं नहीं, मैं जून में एग्जाम दे नहीं पाऊंगी।
अब तो फिर ठीक है, आप सितंबर में दे देना अपना असाइनमेंट्स, और दिसंबर में एग्जाम देना, कोई बात नहीं।
ओके सर, तो सितंबर में जमा हो जाएंगे और दिसंबर एग्जाम हो जाएंगे ना?
हाँ, हाँ, हाँ।
थैंक यू सर।
Okay, so coming to the next text about Smaro. Just a minute, I'm just taking out. I have an article. I will send you that article regarding this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, you find for years now, spatial analysis is no longer, confined to disciplines that, deals directly with physical dimensions of social existence, such as you can say geography, architecture, and urban planning. But over the past centuries, space has been infiltrated most of the social sciences and humanities, um, and where literary criticism is a part. And in fact, you find there are people like Edward Soja is considered the post-colonial criticism of Edward Said, Gayatri Spivak, Homi Bhava, and Arjun Appadwari, who are as the decisive impulsive that has allowed the spatial turn in which intersect and interchange the comparative literature with different other subjects. So you find a Greek Canadian author Smaro, Smaro Camborelli, in the second person, which was written in 1985, seemed to anticipate Rushdie's concerns about space and identity. And so you find in the second person, as Eva Karpinski has said, it is a borderline text in relation to both Canadian ethnic immigrants and the mainstream autobiography, which uniquely positioned to unsettle the construction of margin center. So you find, 1 minute. Yeah. So you find that you know as Edward said, puts in the culture and imperialism, which has been apparent for quite a while now, witnesses the recent interest in rewriting the cultural history by looking beyond the hegemonic structure towards the cultural products of minority groups. In Canada, the effects of these pressures have been noted mostly in uh, critics of those institutional practices and established the value systems that have fostered a unified vision of Canadian culture. So you find the Canadian ethnic literature still remains a minor literature, minor by you know Gilles uh, Deleuze's and Felix Guattari's definition, which says a minor literature doesn't come from a minor language. So it is rather that which a minority constructs within a major language, but also is a sense that is discovery, which is referred. One minute. Yeah. So yet you find that for example, you'll say there were people like Robert Leckers and Frank Davies debate about what constitutes the Canadian literary canons, which show that their concerns with the inclusionary and the exclusionary politics that determine it, and their arguments which do not reach far enough into Canada's cultural history to problematize the reasons for its blatant exclusion of ethnic writing. And although you find Lecker um, uh, in his um, uh, text, he has said that a country without a canon, Canadian literature, and the aesthetic of idealism acknowledges that canon shift, they are fluid constructs, and he makes no reference to the ethnic literature. So he concedes that there is no grammar of consensus, and that is an idealized model of the canon. So you find that the glaring absence of the ethnicity and its perfect perfunctory the presence that has become the custom as late, which is recurring the elements as both empty and full, full of the diversity of the ethnic voices, which consider a history of Canadian literature by W.H. New, which is organized as an genre and theme, and this history is yet is another instance of history which is being unmasked selectively, and you find that these are things which are absent but are received in a you know cursory look, and the new refers to them most of the chapters which you find which is entitled in Encoder's Literature into 1985. So you find the determination, the it is a way or to continue to determine the making of the Canadian literature. So talking about the first ice stacking the ground of ethnic differences. So I have the author says that I have selected the genre of anthology because it is usually designed and around principles which shared by its contributors. So, as a collective attempt to make mm, to make um, um, to make a statement or to convey what is current anthologies. These reflect the value shaping a giving tradition, or conversely, the need to revise those values. So Canadian ethnic anthologies, which began appearing with great frequency in the early 1980s, constitute the first consistent compilation of the ethnic literature. So just as a few examples of anthologies that illustrate the manifold and the complex ways in which the ethnicity is represented, as well as you find the ambivalent relation between official multiculturalism and the ethnic literary discourse which are there in Harvest, an anthology of Mennonite, written in Canada, that is from 1874 to 1974. So although these contents are disparate in many ways, yeah. So these anthologies represent the ethnicity as a driving force, endowing the um, writing featured in them with a dynamism that has ideologically and culturally, which
जो
has.
मैंने तुम्हें मैसेज किया
Hello. Okay. So you find all these. You find there the commonalities. They are embodied in the Canada's mosaic, and their commonality lies in their intention to translate their images as others into a self defined specificity, and they are presented as text which are invoked by the historical um, necessities which are reaching to the readers um, from a marginalized but also affirmative point of view. So this is what the author is trying to show in this text. Supriya, could you understand?
Sir, I'm trying to get through the text also. It will take time little bit, sir.
Okay, I will send. I have two PDF. I'll send you. You can read that also.
Yes, sir, that will be very helpful. Today, actually, I didn't go through the blog and it is very difficult for me to connect all the points.
Hmm. Actually, if you come, a little, you have a little knowledge, and you come, it is easy for you to connect and
Yes,
even
sir.
ask questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The criticism itself is little difficult to understand.
Yes, sir, that's true.
So, if you don't have any questions, we can end today's class here. But
Sir, at
I'll
the
send.
end, there is one question.
Mhm,
In what term does Cambroli view difference? Give a brief answer. There is a question in the text. In this
mhm.
question, uh, like how Kimberly show the difference between it is basically in the text sees
The
criticism.
otherness, the
Yes,
otherness, which is reflected, the geography of otherness.
okay, sir.
Okay, that you have to talk about. I'll send you that PDF, you can read.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that will be very helpful.
Okay then, so can we end the class here today?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you, sir, if
Yeah,
I have any
yeah, yeah,
doubt
yeah, tell me.
regarding this block, I will get back to you. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, you can get back to me on WhatsApp.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.